All right, welcome back to the TCI Studio. Robert McCray. Let's see, Ravens wheel today. So excited!
We're gonna go that way again.
Yes. Got his plaid shirt on today. That should look really good in our videos. We're going to talk more spring practice. Obviously, we're in the middle of football season. We got just over a week to go, and then we'll be talking about what happened past tense. But we still got some things we can talk about current tense. Some of the guys we've heard some good things about this week from Dabo and some of the other players, really calling out some of the guys that are really excelling this year. And obviously, Will, you've written about a lot of this, you and Gavin, this week, but we want to just kind of summarize that. One of the guys Dabo was asked about last time we had him available. He said, "Oh, did you ask about E.J. Williams?" And he went on and told a little story about how well E.J. had done that day.
Yeah, actually, Dabo did something again that he normally doesn't do. He did that the last time we talked too. He stopped practice and went over and pointed out how well E.J. Williams has practiced, or that particular day was practicing, and he wanted to point that out, not to just E.J. but the whole team as well. So he stopped practice to do it. That's the ultimate compliment if you're E.J. Williams, when the head coach stops practice to point out how well you're doing. And so, but he's one of the guys that we've heard, before that, how well he had been doing, and that he's kind of taken that next step, they think, in his progression, and they feel like he's a guy that's going to really help them this coming season. He saw that at the end of last year when he really came on and was making some big plays, and now he is in year two, his second full spring, and so everybody always wonders, Robert, they say, what about when these early enrollees come in, how much does it really help them? I think E.J. Williams is a great example of how much it does help them to have that extra 15 practices they get.
Well, Dabo said it was the best practice he'd had, which, as you said, he really came on strong at the end of the year. We saw that on Saturdays in the game. So if he's at another level now, you got Justin Ross coming back, all these other guys available. Very good news for what we're expecting
Huge
to
news
see
for the offense
this year. We got to talk to CJ this week, which was awesome. Hopefully you guys have watched the video. If not, take 30 minutes, go watch the full video. It's just great having him back with Clemson. It's just his passion for Clemson just oozes during that press conference.
It does.
But he talked about the running backs and some of the guys that were excelling. He didn't want to go too far, but he called out some guys.
Yeah, and first ones he talked about, I asked him about the freshmen, how they were doing, and he mentioned how he tells those guys he don't want to put too much pressure on them, if you will. He just wants them to, because, he says he sees a lot of the similarities between him and James Davis when they were playing, he said. And he says,
he used the thunder and lightning.
He did. He's the one that you brought it up. Nobody else did. But he told them and said, hey, look, a lot of people are going to say this and this, but don't worry about or listen to what those guys think. And you guys just do your job and come prepared every day. You're going to be fine. And don't think about the outside expectations or being compared to him and JD. So those are two of the guys. Obviously, they're excited about Kobe Pace and what he's doing right now. He's really, especially with Lin J missing a practice there with, wearing the yellow jersey. Kobe's kind of getting a little more reps, Ches Malusi's kind of getting a little more reps. So you're starting to see I won't say a pecking order, because I still think it's going to start there with Lin J, but you're starting to see where some of these guys they're starting to trust a little more, if you will, and these are the guys they're really bringing up into conversations. And CJ says, he's not going to worry about a depth chart right now, per se, as much as more trying to make sure he's got these guys ready to go into the summer, so when they get into fall camp, they're prepared to play.
And another reason you don't want to talk a lot about the depth chart right now is because you got too many talented guys. And if you start rolling out that depth chart information, some of those guys may decide to check out that infamous transfer portal. So you're better to kind of keep everybody feeling like they got a shot. Another guy we've talked about before, but at a key position that we're hearing good things about is Hunter Rayburn at center.
Yeah, Hunter Rayburn has really grabbed that position, and that's what Dabo was hoping would happen. They wanted Hunter to do it last year, but he just kind of was still learning. It was kind of just coming together for him. So they felt like they did have a wiggle room with Cade there, but this was the year they were kind of like, okay, this has got to be his year to take that position and become the guy. And that's what he's done. He's he's come in, and they said Dabo and Tony have both said just a different kind of mentality for him. Understands everything that's going on. It's just like, as Dabo says, like the light bulb has just come on, and all of a sudden everything's just happening real fast for him, and he's doing things the way they were expecting him to. So they're pleasantly surprised and happy about the way he has really come on, and now they feel like they targeted, okay, who their starter is going to be at center, and that does a lot for them as they now start trying to see how they're going to build depth along that offensive line, which Dabo Swinney says is the number one thing they've been wanting to do this spring.
Mm-hmm. All right, another thing that got me real excited this week, and we actually got to talk to one of the guys. We heard Dabo just raving about Myles Murphy and Brian Brzee, and talking about how they are just at a different level. We got to talk to Myles. Hopefully you've seen his video. If not, go check it out. You can check it out on the site, you can check it out on YouTube, you can check it out on our Facebook page. We got it all over. But just listening to Myles talk in that interview, just the confidence. He was such a different player. And we saw just how amazing he was last year and how amazing Brian was as true freshmen. And now you think those guys are just much more confident, much more comfortable, and the coaches are talking about how improved they are. That's a great sign.
It is, and the key word that Dabo has used is consistency. They're both consistent. And that was the thing he said last year on that defensive line. As good as they were and the flashes they showed, because remember, they still led the country in sacks, and they still were second in the country in tackles for loss. So it wasn't like they were shabby. But he talked about there were some inconsistencies at times. He said that could have been COVID, that could have been injuries, a lot of things that could have contributed to it. But he says this year, especially with those two young guys you mentioned, they're just very consistent. They come to practice ready to go. They're making plays in practice. You're seeing that the things that last year maybe they struggled with, they're not struggling with anymore. They're becoming dominant players like they're supposed to be at those positions, like they're expected to be. And Dabo has pretty much, their name has come up in almost every post-practice press conference with Coach Swinney. He's mentioned Brian and Myles at some point and what kind of spring they're having. So I look for those two guys to have a tremendous season. They were freshman All-Americans last year, and Brian was ACC Rookie of the Year on the defensive side. So they had great years last year. You can only imagine if they're really doing all the things we're hearing, they're going to be even more dominant this year.
We're hearing a number of good things. Obviously, corner's a position everybody's watching with a couple of transfers there. You know, we've heard some really good things about Malcolm Green. Any of the other DBs you want to mention that you've heard some really good things about last week or two?
Yeah, Mario Goodrich playing the nickel position is really, he's kind of now with Green out for the rest of the spring because of the shoulder surgery. Now Goodrich is kind of penciled into that nickel spot, and they want to see how he does there because they want to, as Dabo said, they want to provide some depth there, not just with the strong side backer position, but also with the nickel backs. They want to have depth in there, and so when they bring in, they can bring in multiple guys. They're talking about Jake Venables is also playing that position as well. Excuse me, Tyler Venables, not Jake. Not Jake. Tyler Venables.
Definitely not Jake.
So Tyler's playing that position as well, and so Mario's one guy that's standing out. Andrew Booth has had a very good spring, and that's what you want if you're Clemson, because when you lose Deion Kendrick and you lost that guy who was a shutdown corner, you need Booth to step up and be the guy. And they feel good about Mario also playing that other corner position, but they really need Andrew Booth to take over that position and be that shutdown corner guy that they've been wanting from him the last couple of years.
Tyler Venables is a great athlete. They're just trying to find the right spot for him. So I think it's good that they're giving him a shot over there as well. All right, those are just some of the guys. I mean, we hear, obviously, every day at practice, they're talking about different guys, but those are some of the guys that have jumped out to us in the conversations. We'll find out more today. They actually have a scrimmage today, Friday. We'll hear more from Dabo after that. And then, of course, next week we've got the spring game, and we'll be able to see it. You guys will be able to see it on TV. We'll have Bart there shooting for us. So we'll have a lot of coverage from the spring game, and we'll get to see for ourselves and hear what the coach spin is afterwards. So that's just a tease for you guys on spring practice. Obviously, we know everybody loves Clemson football, wants to talk Clemson football 24/7, 365. So we're going to do our best to continue the conversation. Stay tuned to TCI for the most complete coverage of Clemson football, Clemson athletics, and recruiting.